Hola amigos! If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that we usually dive into some pretty deep advanced territory. We build crazy complex material graphs, post-processing effects, and sometimes really big node networks that, if not done correctly, can look like absolute spaghetti. But lately, reading through some comments, I noticed something important. A lot of you are jumping straight into these advanced tutorials and getting completely lost in the sauce. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. It's incredibly easy to pull up a video and just blindly copy a step-by-step guide. You plug the blue dot into the green dot, you type a number, and boom, it looks great. But if you don't actually know why you just plugged a multiply node into your base color or why you're using a dot product, you're going to get stuck the very second you try to build something on your own. So we are taking a step back. I'm starting this brand new series for absolute beginners, going back to the foundational basics so you can understand the logic behind the nodes rather than just copying mine. These will be generally shorter videos than the ones I usually make, and each one will cover only a few concepts. But by the end of the series, you should have a good knowledge of the principal material concepts. But before we even open the engine, I want to start the series by clearing up some terminology because people use these three words interchangeably all the time, but they are not the same thing, and sometimes they even mean different things in different engines. These are textures, materials, and shaders, or shading models. A texture is the most familiar one, and it means the same in almost every engine and tool out there. A flat 2D image file. A picture of a cat, a brick wall, or a checkerboard. It does absolutely nothing on its own. And there are many file formats that we can use for textures in Unreal. PNG, JPG, or TGA are quite common, but also some that are more specific to game development, like DDS or KTX. Next, materials. A material is a collection of properties that we apply to things in our game, like a 3D model, an element of the UI, or a post-process filter. If the 3D model is a person, for example, the materials would be their skin, hair, eyes, the different types of clothing, their accessories, and so on. So in short, a material is the container that holds our textures and properties such as is it shiny, or is it transparent, etc. And finally, how does the engine how to calculate that shininess or transparency? In Unreal Engine, that is decided by the shading model. The shading model is the underlying set of rules, usually involving a lot of math, that tells the engine how light should behave when it hits your surface. Most engines have multiple shading models which are optimized for specific types of surfaces or visual effects. For example, are we rendering human skin? Then we need the surface shading model so light scatters through it. Or are we rendering a shiny sports car? Then we use the clear coat model. And all these models handle the complex math behind the scenes so you don't have to. Now, modern graphics cards, your GPU, are absolute monsters at processing millions and millions of pixels almost simultaneously. And they do this by running them in multiple clusters in parallel, all of this in perfect synchronization. This means that every time that we connect nodes in our material graph, we are writing custom math instructions that the GPU runs on every pixel of that object, every single frame. And because of this raw processing power, our possibilities in the material editor are virtually infinite. We aren't just slapping stickers on 3D shapes, we can manipulate light, bend time, and completely distort geometry in real time. And now let's go to Unreal so we can take a look at the material editor workspace. But before that, a quick reminder that my first science fiction novel, The Biome, is available in most Amazon stores in both physical and digital editions. Here is the full cover by Antonio Del Hoyo in all its beautiful glory. If you want to support me and the channel, check it out via the links in the description below, And if you enjoyed, leave a review on Amazon on Goodreads. And now let's go back to Unreal. Just like in the case of blueprints, when we open the material editor, we are greeted by a node graph-based visual programming interface. I know that programming sounds scary, but I promise you that it's just passing information from one place to another. To navigate this graph, right-click anywhere and hold to pan the view around, and use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Now, getting instructions or nodes here is pretty simple. Right-click anywhere in the empty space and you get this massive, searchable list of every node available. The list is also here on the palette, which you can pin to the side of the screen. Some common use nodes also have shortcuts to create them. For example, you can hold M and left-click anywhere to create a multiply node, or hold U to create a texture coordinate node. Some of the nodes have input boxes next to their pins, like the multiply node here, allowing us to type a value directly instead of needing a connection. And once a node is in the graph, we can select multiple, drag them around, copy and paste them with Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, and duplicate them with Ctrl+D, just like anything else in Unreal. You can also right-click on a node to see a list of actions that you can perform on it, and most of them are pretty self-explanatory, so we won't go through them right now. Instead, take a look at the little circles on the sides of the nodes. These are the connection points, or pins, and we can right-click on them to get options that are tailored to that specific type of pin. For example, here we have, under pin actions, promote to parameter. And now that we have all the pieces, we can move on to the fun part, which is wiring it all together. You can just click on a pin and drag to create a wire from an output pin to an input pin. The icon under the cursor will tell you if that's a valid or invalid connection. And before continuing, I want to save you hours of time down the road by showing you these 3 keyboard modifiers right now. Hold Alt and click a wire to instantly delete it, or click a pin to delete all the wires connected to it. You can also hit Ctrl or hold Ctrl and click on a pin to drag that connection somewhere else, or click Shift to copy it. You can also hold Alt and click on empty space to create this line that behaves as a knife and cuts through any connections that it intersects. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have so far. The golden rule here is that data always flows from the left to the right. Over on the far right, we have the main material node, and you can think of this as the finish line. This is the master list of all the properties and everything that our surface can be. All the nodes that we create on the left are just instructions and modifiers. And by hooking them together, we can take some data, alter it, and pipe that final result into this main node to tell the engine what to display. For example, we can take these values, which go from 0 to 1 in the red and green channel, multiply them by 2, and connect that to our base color. And if we change this preview to be a cube, we can see that we have values that go on red from 0 to 1, and on green from 0 to 1. So when both are 1, we get red plus green, which is yellow. Great. Now we have the details panel under the preview here on the left side, and this panel is context sensitive, meaning that it changes completely based on which node you have currently selected. It's where we can fine-tune some of the settings of the node, or change some parameters that might not be exposed here on the node or as connection pins. For example, here we have the U and V tiling and the coordinate index, which we can also show if we expand the node. We change to the multiply, we have the constant for the A and B parameters, and if we don't select anything, we have this list which corresponds to the details of our main material node. And by now, we have mentioned the preview panel on the top left, which shows a rendering of the entire material applied to the selected mesh, which we can change between the available here, and I think we can drag static meshes to show them here as well. So let's keep the cube for now. But when working with graph nodes, it's very helpful for troubleshooting and debugging to be able to see the output of any specific node or the output up to that point. And we can do this in two different ways. We can expand the node by clicking on the little arrow on the top right corner, and most of the nodes will show a small preview window on the node itself with the result. But to get a better view, we can either right-click on the node and select Start Previewing Node, and then Stop Previewing Node to stop that, or click on the little play button next to the arrow. And this allows us to rotate the object and not have this output affected by any of the other properties of the material. Just see this result applied to the mesh. Alright, to wrap this first video up, we're not going to just talk about theory. Let's actually build something. I want you to make the most basic material possible so you can see this workflow in action. Let me close this one, and if you haven't done it already, go to the content browser, right-click on it, and select Material. This will create a material asset in this folder, which we can rename, and it's generally a good practice to use a prefix that tells the type. For example, in this case, since it's a material, I'm going to name this m_something. For example, m_tutorial. Now, double-click on it, or hit Enter to open it in the editor. In your material graph, hold down the number 3 on your keyboard and left-click anywhere. This is one of those shortcuts that I mentioned earlier, and it creates a constant 3-vector node. You can see it here, it's a constant 3-vector. I know that the name sounds like math homework, but it's literally just a color node expressed as a vector with 3 components: red, green, and blue, or RGB. And the pins, the first one represents the entire vector, and the other 3 represent the 3 components: red, green, and blue. Next, double-click on the black square, and a standard color picker will show up. Pick whatever color you want. I'm going to select a bright lime green for mine. And then hit OK. Now, just move this here and drag from the first pin on the right side of the vector to the pin labeled base color on the main material node. And the preview mesh should change to that color. Okay, not bad. We have a cube in a bright lime, beautiful green. Not bad, but we can do something more fun for this first video. Let's add some animation. Right-click on an empty space and search for debug time sign. And these two nodes are the same, just in different categories. So select either of them, and now right-click on it and start previewing node. Let's see what this does. So now our cube is changing from black to white to black to white. And if it doesn't behave like this on your screen, it might be because you haven't selected real-time viewport. So make sure that you do that if you want to see the proper animation. Now, technically, this is going from -1 to 1 because this node is taking the time and calculating the sign of that value, which would be a curve going like this from 0 or from -1 to 1. Now we can take that value and multiply by our color. So let's hold M and left click to create a multiply node and drag the first pin, connect it to input A, and the result of our debug time sign to input B. And that gives us a color that goes from 0, 0, 0, or -1, -1, -1, which is black, to the color that we have selected. So let's preview this and see that. So we go from black to green to black to green. Great. But now instead of replacing this base color, we can take that value and multiply it again. So hit M or hold M while you left click on the graph to create a second multiply node and connect the result of the first one. And on the second parameter, instead of connecting something, let's type something like a big value, maybe 25 or 50. And now we're going to connect this instead of the base color to the emissive color. Now let's stop this preview, organize our graph to make it a bit nicer, and we have our cube going from green to bright green. So it's so bright that it emits light, and if you have lumen enabled, this should also cast or produce light in your scene. So that's it. Much cooler this way, and congratulations, you just made your first material. We can go to the top left, hit apply, and save it. Great. Let's close the editor, and back in the main viewport, let's drop a basic sphere or a cube into the level by going to this menu and selecting basic shapes, and a sphere. Make sure that is visible. And now we can open the content browser, find the material that we just made, and literally just drag and drop it onto the sphere. Boom. And now we have a glowing sphere that is casting this green light, this glow around it. And there's another way to do it. If we have the sphere selected, we can see that we have the materials section with element 0, and here we have our material, and in this drop box we can select any of the materials available in the editor. Alternatively, we can go to the content browser, take our material and drag it on the details panel. And that is all for this first intro video. I told you it would be shorter than usual. In the next one, things will start to pick up pace very quickly. We will look at the material property pins, all of them, including the holy trinity of modern rendering: base color, metallic, and roughness, and understand what each one of those do. And we'll also learn how just these three simple values can create almost any physical material in the real world. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it, and I will see you in the next one.